Good morning, everyone. Buenos dias. Good morning. If I can have everyone, please, come on in. If I can have your attention. Thank you. Let me begin by saying, if anyone needs Spanish interpretation, it is available. Si alguien necesita un intérprete en español, Aurora y Smiley están aquí al frente. Pueden pasar y hacer uso de uno de los audífonos para interpretar. Great, good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Good morning, Providence. It's great to be here. My name is Victor Capellan. And I first want to say thank you to Mayor Brett Smiley for the opportunity to be here with you today. It has been a true honor for me to serve as a co-chair of the Brett Smiley transition team. And it is also exciting to be here as a Providence resident at the dawn of this new administration for our city, with a leader that brings both head and heart to the work. I'm incredibly hopeful for what is ahead for our city. As a kid who came from the Dominican Republic at the age of 12, without speaking a word of English, growing up right down the street here on Providence Ave, I have a lot to be grateful to our schools. And we want to be able to provide those same opportunities that I received to others so that they are able to realize their own American dream, their own journey. And it is through our schools that those dreams can be achieved. So I'm hopeful that today, as we come together, we can make a pact that we will do whatever we can to provide every child in Providence with opportunities that can help them succeed. During his inaugural address, Mayor Smiley said, and I quote, "As mayor, I am optimistic about where we will go next because we have a strong foundation. Parents who are tireless advocates, teachers and principals who are passionate and dedicated, smart and resourceful students, strong partnering organizations who know the success of our students means the success of our city." He went on to say, now is when we take the next step and together make our education system everything that it has the potential to be, end quote. So I too am optimistic that by working together, we can all deliver on the promise of a great education for every child in Providence. I'm optimistic that by utilizing all of our resources, we can have 21st century state-of-the-art facilities. I'm optimistic that by working together with the state and all of our partners, we can help turn our schools around. And I'm optimistic that by partnering with the families, the teachers, the principals, students, school board, and the entire community, we can deliver for children. So I believe it is our collective responsibility to work together on behalf of the children in Providence. And today we have a mayor who is listening, who convened us here today because he wants to hear from us. He wants to partner with us. So let's take advantage of this opportunity by providing him with the best advice that we can give him so that he can be successful on behalf of our children. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the 39th mayor of our great city of Providence, Mayor Brett Smiley.
Thank you, Victor. Good morning, everybody. I'm so excited for this. We've been planning for this day and looking forward to this day for months now. And I hope it is viewed as a reflection of our priorities as an administration that the first event we've planned as mayor is this event, is an education event. Because our schools are our top priority. It's our city's top priority, our community's top priority. I'm delighted that in addition to so many parents and teachers and advocates today, we also have other policymakers with us today. And I know that maybe for some of the parents and students, the list of politicians can sometimes seem tedious, but the reality is these are the same folks that are going to be working with me to change policies, to allocate funding, to make sure that we have a united front in making the changes necessary in our schools. So I'd like to thank and recognize the new council president in the city of Providence, Rachel Miller, Councilwoman. We have a long list, so I'm going to read them all off, and then we'll do a rousing round of applause. Councilwoman Shelly Peterson, former Representative Anastasia Williams, Senator Sam Zurier, a longtime champion of education in Providence, Councilwoman Ryan, Councilwoman Anthony, Councilman Goncalves, Principal and Representative Nathan Bia, former Councilwoman Carmen Castillo, Representative Morales, Councilman Sanchez, Representative Sanchez, Representative Slater. In addition, we have our new fire chief, Chief Silva here, many other new city department directors, the other co-chairs of our transition, Dr. Omar Ba and Dr. Kathy Lund, and then so important, representing all of the hardworking teachers in Providence, Mary Beth Calabro from the Providence Teachers Union. So if I could have a round of applause for all the policymakers. I'm also excited to say there are many members of the school board here, including the new nominees for the school board. I hope everyone has a chance to meet and talk to them as well. I stand up here today as the product of great public schools. I think so many of us have had the benefit of attending great public schools. And that's what every child in Providence deserves, and that's what I'm committed to doing. We find ourselves at this challenging time when we know the state is still in the midst of the turnover and the turnaround of our schools. And so we are trying to focus today very specifically on areas in which we know we can make progress and areas for which we know we can actually control our own destiny. We want to stay rooted in that which is tangible and pragmatic and realistic to engage all of you so that your voices can actually result in real changes in our schools. And so the breakouts, the way in which we've organized today, are going to focus on world-class facilities to make sure that every one of your students, your family members, the classrooms that you teach in is in fact 21st century. We're going to focus on out-of-school supports, after-school programming, the partnership with our rec centers, the things that happen outside of the classroom which have such an impact on the outcomes in the classroom. And then finally, and perhaps most importantly, making a plan by hearing from you about how do we transition back to local control. The turnaround will come to an end and it will be here relatively soon. And so we need to get ready for that. And it's not something that we can just go back to doing what we used to be doing. We need to create together as a community this new third state, a new governance structure, a new process, so that when the state turns back our schools to local control, we are in a position where we can run better schools, where we can better support our educators, where we can deliver better results for our students, where parents can find it easier to engage. And that's going to take some work. And that's the work ahead, really, of the next 2 years. And so this today is the start. It is not the only opportunity for conversation. Community engagement is important in everything that we do, but perhaps most important in the conversations around our schools. I was so heartened over the last year and a half, the support around the city when I was campaigning, going door to door, making phone calls, knocking on doors, whether it was an older resident who hasn't had a kid in the schools for 40 years, whether it were adults with no kids in the schools and parents with kids in our schools right now, everyone understood that we need excellent schools. And everyone said to me, let me know how I can help. And so this is the first step in that process. I think as a community, we know that this is something that needs to happen. And so our job, my goal, is to try to break that conversation up into realistic, meaningful, tangible pieces so that it doesn't feel insurmountable, and so that the feedback that you give us today is the start of making real changes in our schools to deliver better results for our students. So I really appreciate everyone's participation. I'm asking you to not just stick with us through the end of today, but stick with us through the years to come, because it's going to take all of us. Our teachers alone can't make these changes. Our principals alone can't make these changes. The politicians alone can't make these changes. The community needs to stay together to advocate for these changes, and know that I will be your champion. I think there's no better example than those who are here today dealing with the very real consequences of school closures that were announced last month. I've already heard real, tangible feedback of things that could be done to make that better, to relieve some of that anxiety. That's the kind of process that I envision, where you can have access to the mayor, to your city council, to school leaders, to share what's actually impacting your life so that we can make it better and have better processes and better decision making to keep families together, to result in, at the end of the day, what it all comes down to is a better education for our kids. That's what we're all here for, is the students. So thank you for being a part of today. I'm going to turn it back to Victor, where you're going to get instructions about lunch and breakout rooms. Let's have a great conversation.
So we are at a very important part of the conversation. As you know, the mayor made his way around to all the different groups and got a chance to participate by listening to the different conversations. But this is an opportunity now for all of us to get a sense of what happened in the other rooms and for the mayor to have this report out. And so we're going to start. What I'm going to do is I'm going to call up representatives from each of the 4 groups. They will give their 3 to 5 minute report out to the mayor, and then the mayor will close us out at the end. We're going to start off with our youth group, and I'm going to ask Kim and Juliana if you can please come on up and join us. And next we're going to go to out of school time. So Tanya, if you can make your way closer so we can maximize time. So Kim and Juliana, Mayor is listening.
So in our breakout room, we talked about our facilities in schools, like mental health support, the implementation of counselors and advisors. We want to redirect the funds that are used for police in schools to support our mental health advisors. We also want to talk about the technology advancements in schools. Some schools have very bad technology. They don't have access to good computers or good Wi-Fi compared to other schools, and that just makes it very hard for students to learn or complete their homework and stuff like that. And then we also want to talk about the renovation. Some gender-neutral bathrooms aren't available to a lot of students, especially in my school. The bathrooms aren't good at all. Some of the bathrooms don't have doors on them, or they don't even have toilets in most of the stalls. In Rhode Island, we get a lot of rain, so a lot of the ceilings are leaking, and it just makes it a hazard for students in schools. And the heating system doesn't even work in my school. One day it'll be really cold, the next day it'll be really hot, and it just isn't good for students.
Yeah, we also wanted to stress accessibility. We want ramps in schools and access to elevators. That I know it's a struggle for a lot of people with disabilities within school, because you need a doctor's note, which can be difficult to get, especially if you don't have health insurance. Secondly, in the group, we talked about after school learning, and we thought that PPSD students would really benefit from stipend opportunities and maybe have partnership with other universities and programs already established within Rhode Island. And we also want to diversify rec rooms. When we think of rec rooms, we think of basketball courts, and that's pretty much it. So I feel having a library there, or a computer lab would be very beneficial. And already being known about the resources that you have available, because if you start creating programs that nobody knows about, it's kind of useless to keep creating them if nobody knows about them, period. And also peer mentoring can be really good, because having leadership within schools and having somebody to look up to can not only motivate students, but help them continue their education as well. We also, lastly, we talked about the implementation of Youth Voice and maybe having city council wide for students at like a district level to talk about like the disparities among PPSD and what the changes that they want to see in the schools. But we just want to center youth voice and reach out to youth and tell them that we're here to listen and we're here to lead. Thank you guys.
Right, and the other groups to follow, that was a perfect model for how you do your report, right on time and all the key points. Right after Tanya, we're going to have the facilities. So Melissa, if you can get ready. So now I'd like to turn it over to Tanya Quesada, who will do the out-of-school time.
Actually, let's hear it again for those two young ladies that stood up here in front of this big group and advocated. It is empowering and beautiful to see. So I was part of the conversation with a really big group. Thank you so much all for taking your time and sharing your reflections and new ideas for the out of school time. The 5 points that I'm going to present is something that we heard as we all shared our reflection. We spoke about communication and better advertising of what's in our after schools facilities, right? So recreation centers. What is it available? We have things in place and resources now. However, the communication and the messaging of those resources should be communicated a little bit better. So that's what we heard in the group in terms of communication, so people can utilize those resources. We spoke about also transportation. The resources are there, the recreation centers are open, but if we don't have a way to get there and utilize those resources, then we need to really do something to implement some support and resources in terms of transportation. We also spoke about utilization of existing facilities, and we're talking about school recreations and libraries. We also spoke about youth employment and summer program. I love the fact that we spoke also about safety in the recreation centers. When we spoke about safety, we spoke specifically about representing a welcoming space for those that are utilizing the recreation centers. And lastly, as I think you're going to also see a pattern, we spoke about budget. So we need the money to be there present. I loved that Councilman Goncalves, is he still here? He stated that the council, right, the city council is the one that carries the purse with all the money. And we all laughed when he said that. So at the same time, he also said, we want our constituents, we want our residents to come to us and let us know what you need within the community so we together can have a conversation and we can impact change. So thank you for Brett Smiley administration to really initiating this powerful listening session. And I said initiation because I know there's more to come, because together we can impact change. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Tanya. And now we'll hear from the facilities group, Melissa Hughes.
Thank you. I was the co-facilitator for our school facilities session today. And the main question we had before us was, how can our school buildings better meet the needs of students and families, both right now, as students are in school right now, and looking forward to the future. We heard from lots of families, elected officials, and other folks, and every family wants to feel that they're part of their own school community, and both families and educators are really motivated to pitch in as much as they can to make their facilities better and their whole school communities better. We heard a lot from folks in one particular school community, the Washington Park neighborhood and the Broad Street Elementary School, that they don't feel heard, and they need way more transparency around decision making. This is not unique to that community, and lots of folks in our city are feeling shut out when decisions are made from the top down. The questions that we left with were who makes which decisions, both from the very big decisions about what new construction we have, as well as the little and smaller decisions about which projects get handled. When do those decisions get made, and how can people engage better? The overarching themes, as always, and I'm sure these came up in other sessions as well, where we all want more transparency. We all want to be included in the decisions that affect our children and our neighborhoods. And we need continuous engagement. So just as we heard with the previous session, folks are hoping that today was a good starting point, and we're so grateful to Mayor Smiley for convening this event so that he could start to hear from us. But we're not done having this conversation, and we need to keep engaging about decisions. We wanted to get excited about some new projects that are happening right now and projects that will happen in the future, but that's hard to get excited about those things until we build trust in our community to know that those projects will be followed through on and that all of our students, families, and educators are well cared for in our schools. Finally, in this listening session, what stuck out the most, I think, is that our school communities need excellent facilities that match the absolutely excellent human beings that are in our schools every single day. The students, the parents, the teachers, the staff, our school leaders, and our city's best resource is our people, and I'm proud to be here with you today, and thank you for letting us hear from you.
Thank you, Melissa, for that wrap-up. Our last group, Alan, I believe, is going to be presenting for us, and is PJ going to be joining you? Or he's leaving you?
No. All right, good. All right. Hello, everyone. So I was part of the facilitation group for the transition from state to local regarding the Providence Public Schools. And I want to give just a side note that a lot of people also wrote sticky notes. So there were a number of questions that were mentioned. We picked 10 because you just don't have enough time to mention. It was probably 40 or 50 statements that were done. So I'm going to start with the top 10. Number one, there was student, teacher, parents involvement on all levels. Number two, we spoke command and control structure of PPSD administration. Number three was community partnership process and streamlining. Number four, what would be an equitable return of PPSD from state to city control? Number five is teacher satisfaction. Number six was, what is the plan to communicate with stakeholders prior to taking back PPSD? Number seven was ensure I'm sorry, I didn't write these questions, so give me a second here. It says here, ensure take back timeline and process from the state as understood. Number eight, how will the school board regain power? That was mentioned a number of times. Number nine, evaluate the district's capacity and how can the mayor support it? And lastly, number 10, invest in a healing process. Now again, I want to say that again, and I see a parent with the red jacket on. She mentioned this, she had a strong statement. Again, invest in a healing process with students, teachers, families, and all other stakeholders. So that's from the mayor's office for the facilitation. I just want to put a personal note as a community activist. I want to say that this was a great turnout. I thank all of you for coming and being here. And then I also want to say to Mayor Smiley, thank you. And this is coming again from a community activist, showing people that you are really concerned. This is your first week, and he's here. So I just want to say thank you, and I'd like to give him a clap.
Great, thank you so much, everyone. So that was the gist of the conversations. And as you know, every single room had note takers that were gathering so much more that is going to be shared with the mayor and his staff. Two final things from me. There is a survey that is an exit ticket that is asking you to continue to provide additional feedback on any of the 4 topics that we discussed today. So you have, some of them were distributed out, but they will also be emailed to everyone that registered, so you will have an opportunity to continue the conversation, to continue to provide feedback. As we said at the beginning, this is an opportunity for you to provide the mayor with input and feedback, so make sure that you take that opportunity with the survey. Finally, in room 207, there is a crew that you saw walking around with doing a little film. They are available if you would like to, there he is, if you would like to share your feedback via video, they will be available after this session, so they're staying around in room 207, and you can go right upstairs. Finally, as a personal point, I just want to say thank you as well to the mayor, and thank you to all of you for your participation here today, for your efforts. So, Mayor, I will give it back to you. Thank you, everyone. Mayor Smiley.
Thank you, Victor. All right, so there we go. Part of being a well-run.
I'm doing this by voice. Everyone hear me? All right. So part of being a well-run city is running on time, and we're going to get you out of here right in 2. At the outset, I acknowledge some of the other partners in government, policymakers at the state level and the city level that are integral to making sure that we have laws and ordinances and budgets that reflect these priorities. At the beginning, they weren't here, or I missed them. I wanted to just recognize Councilman Pichardo, Councilman Vargas for coming today and for being a part of this, and for all of the other council people, state representatives, members of my staff who are here on a Saturday, because it is going to take all of us. So thank you for your participation. I want to also thank, because to me, this is what community engagement looks like. And we have such a beautiful representation of city residents, families, parents, students, people who care about our schools but don't even live in Providence but know that this matters to the entire state of Rhode Island. I want to thank all of them. I worked hard on behalf of my transition to raise money, and I want to thank the Providence Foundation and the Partnership for Rhode Island. That's how we were able to provide lunch, childcare, and interpretation throughout the day to no cost to taxpayers. These are the kind of priorities that I bring into making it accessible, that when you take time out of your day, that we're able to provide those things to make sure that you can engage and be able to be present. I want to thank the parents and the teachers who have busy lives and who worked all week and still showed up today. And one of the things that Alan referenced in his last note from the readout from the transition to local control, and I was there for those comments, about Alan said trauma, one of the comments was trauma, but it's also just exhaustion. It's not lost on me that many of you have had these same conversations dozens of times over many years, and it can feel like Groundhog Day. I understand that, and I'm sympathetic to that. And we set out in the ground rules that we were trying to be future-looking, that we're trying to not dwell on the past, but instead think about the future. But it's impossible to ignore the fact that many of you have been asked similar questions in the past, and it feels like we're still having the same conversations. So I acknowledge that. I too have participated in many of those conversations in years past. And all I can ask for our kids' sake and for their kids' sake, that we do in fact stay engaged and come in with the belief that this time can be different, that it can change, and that the comments that you made today, that the feedback that you gave today can in fact finally change the trajectory of our kids for the future, because they deserve it no matter how tired we might be. That this is the first of many conversations. Please participate in the feedback survey. That will help us do the next one even better. And please, there were so many vital organizations here who are partners in our schools. Some of them had tables out front.
Many of them were participating in the breakouts. There are so many ways to engage in our schools beyond this and beyond waiting for the next one that we plan. Whether it's engaging in your school PTA or PTO, whether it's engaging in many of the important partnering organizations, PASA, SOAR, Books Have Wings, the community libraries at Providence who are here, our rec centers. There are so many ways that we would love to have your time and talent. Please talk to any member of our staff about how to do so. Thank you for your time today. I know we'll stick around for individual question and answers, but I want to honor our commitment to get you out on time. Thank you so much.